Hello, hello. Welcome to the Brave Maker Film Fest and our online experience. My name is Tony Gapistone. Thanks for joining us. If you will give me a minute or two of your time, I'm going to start with a video of someone whose life was changed by a story that really ties into the theme that we're sharing today. So take a look at this.
Always thought I was a great mom, and I gave my son my all, and unconditional. And until I saw that movie, it made me realize I judged him and I reacted wrong. I was very sad, not only for my son, myself. I felt like I hurt him bad, and that was never my intention. I had flashes of my son when I found out that he was gay, or I didn't really find out. I just kind of caught an uncomfortable situation and I reacted bad, probably as bad as the dad did. And I had to find ways to apologize and just realize that there's a lot about me that I have to deal with, and I didn't deal with it. Probably stems from my past, and it wasn't fair to have it impact him like that. Should have dealt with my own problems before having to react that way. Hi, I'm Jennifer Marini. My story with Brave Maker was from The Guardian. Who knew that a movie would impact me? I mean, never. I've been in movies my whole life and seen documentaries, and never, ever once have I walked out of there shook to my core. I needed a lot of help. I needed some therapy. I needed some group. I needed to talk about it. I needed to deal with my own my fears, my sadness, my own devastation in life. It started me a whole new of how I think and how I act and how I react. I mean, that's definitely a big thing now. Like, I think before I react, and I've never done that. I think I was just always fly off the handle, or just went with whatever came out of my mouth. And I never realized how words can really hurt somebody. And not only that, but words and actions are just the two double negatives, So I definitely, thanks to you, I've seen a lot more. I've opened my eyes a lot more, and I feel more at peace, almost like, because I'm dealing with it. I'm not 100% there. I mean, there's a lot of things family-wise and son-wise, but I'm closer to my son. I had to apologize to him and his partner. I have to rebuild both of those relationships, and you've helped me do that. That movie helped me do that, knowing that no matter how long it takes me, it's worth that time. He's my son. I need him, and he needs me. I think that by you telling your stories, you need to know that it makes a difference. And if it changes one person, it can change 10, change 20, make it small into a village, and just go from there. And everybody will be talking about Brave Maker, and it's definitely worth your time, your money, whatever it supports, because without you, I can't imagine I wouldn't be who I am right now. So that's Brave Maker to me.
Well, thanks for joining. That's the power of stories. That's why Brave Maker exists. We want to elevate brave stories for justice, diversity, and inclusion. And the two filmmakers that we're highlighting today do just that. Before I bring them on, I would love to highlight what we're doing and who are sponsoring us. So give me a second, and I would love to show you. I hope that my videos are working here, so bear with me here as I do the production as well as the facilitating. But I need to make sure I say thank you to our sponsors who have been so gracious and generous to us during this shelter-in-place time. One of them is Nikon. I want to say thank you to Nikon for saying yes and supporting us and giving us a grant to do this work. I also need to say thank you to Premia Capital, which is a staple in downtown Redwood City. They have said they believe in the work that we're doing here, not just in Redwood City, but beyond, globally and nationally, because now we have been taking this work online. And one of our sponsors who came on last year for our film festival is the Redwood City Parks and Arts Foundation. So thank you to all of these gracious partners who have said yes, and we're looking for more. If that is you, please contact me. I would happily tell you about what we're doing and how you can get connected. My name is Tony Gapistone with Brave Maker. I'm the founder and executive director. So with no further ado, let me bring on the two filmmakers who had their selected films premiere this week with our online festival. If you're not connected to our online fest, you can go to bravemaker.com/buzz. And if you didn't sign up until now, we will send you out the links to their films so that you can hear about them, meet them, and watch their stories come to life on screen. So with that, let me bring in Daryl B. Jones as well as Indy Dang to the podcast today, to the broadcast today. Welcome, both of you. I see Daryl, you're muted, so make sure you unmute yourself. And let me have you both to share. No problem. Daryl, let's start with you. Why don't you share where you're StreamYarding in from here and tell us a little bit about yourself and your film.
Hi, I'm Daryl Jones. I'm in Redwood City, California, and I am a documentary filmmaker and also a lecturer at UC Santa Cruz. My film is and it's about Black trans women in San Francisco, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Daryl. Daryl.
While Tony has that up, that's the webpage for Tinder on New Day. It's available for streaming as well as DVD purchase.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll put that link in the comments here if you'd like to follow up with Daryl and share it with your college or university or faith group or someone that advocates for housing. And we'll talk about how that story in this documentary plays out and why we selected it. But the cool thing, I love that both these filmmakers are Bay Area filmmakers. And Daryl happens to live in the same city that I live. So when he had submitted his film and we were going through our submissions, like, this guy, what? He lives in Redwood City? I love it. There's 90,000 people. We're not too small. We're not too big. But I love that we're finding more people who are doing this kind of great justice and advocacy work through storytelling and film. So great to connect with you, Daryl.
Absolutely.
Indy, give us a introduction to yourself, where you're calling from, and a little bit about influence.
Yeah, so my name is Indy. I'm a filmmaker. I just graduated last year from the Rhode Island School of Design with a degree in film. And the film we're talking about today, Influence, is my senior thesis film that I created over the course of the school year. What you're seeing right now is my personal website. So I've got the films that I've made there. And so the film Influence is about, basically it's about a younger brother being influenced by his older brother and basically the world around him. And he's also struggling with his identity. So it's about how those things sort of join together to sort of change the course of this kid's life.
Both of your films had strong themes of visibility, just seeing people and elevating the challenge that we have in culture and maybe the judgment and labeling that we often have. I just would love you both to sort of share how the story evolved, how you decided that this was, for Daryl, for your documentary, that you wanted to feature these trans women. And I've heard you talk about this before, but how really the issue became about their housing challenge in the Tenderloin. Why don't you start, and then we'll get to you, Indy.
Sure. Thanks, Tony. I did want to start out making a film about Black LGBTQ people and solidarity, how we are all struggling and surviving together to fight heteronormativity and homophobia and transphobia, how we're all working together to fight racism. That was the original idea. After I met Janetta Johnson and Ron J. Earl and Cookie Bivens and talked to other Black trans women, I realized that my premise was absolutely wrong, that the privilege that I have as a cisgender man is not the same as that of Black trans women. They're put into a much different position. They have safety issues that are a concern for them that aren't a concern for me. I'm college educated. I have the luxury of being able to make this film. These are things that they didn't have access to. So as time went on, as I got to know them better, I soon realized that I need to make a film that highlights issues that are important for them. And by just letting them take control, in a sense, really helped to find a story that is not just about Black trans women, but about issues that are important to Black trans women. What I found is that housing is a very central and important concern for Black trans women in San Francisco's Tenderloin for a lot of reasons, one of which is that it's their home, it's where they're from. Black trans women have a very long history of living in the Tenderloin. And we're seeing that they are being gentrified out, that they are being priced out of those areas. And that's really unfair. But in addition to that, it's a universal issue, right? We all have places that are our home. And the idea that we can be priced out of it, that people will not want to help us remain in those spaces is something I think that everybody can understand and relate to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to just say one of the reasons why I personally wanted to connect with this film is I feel this is a growth edge for me, is to understand, the personal narratives of people who are in the trans community. I come from a faith community that often is not sensitive nor compassionate to people in the LGBTQ plus community, and sometimes especially to the trans community. And I really wanted to say thank you, because I felt that these women's stories elevated them to a place of, they're human just like me. We might be different in our journeys and maybe how we see the world and the weights and burdens that we carry, but I want shelter for myself, for my family, just like them. And I felt like that simplicity of the way you humanized your subjects was really great. So thank you for that. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
And if you're watching and just tuning in, I want to invite you to ask questions as you're listening. You might not have seen the films yet, but don't forget, again, I'm happy to send you the links. My name is Tony Gappistone, founder and executive director of Bravemaker. You can email me right now, tony@bravemaker.com. And as soon as we finish with this broadcast, I'll happily send you these links. These stories are important stories. Now, Indy, you have a different story. It's a narrative story, not a documentary. So talk about the development of influence. And it has a dark side to this, the sort of the pain of one trying to accept oneself. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. I mean, it's not just about, accepting yourself, but I'd also say it's about like the importance of unconditional family acceptance. So, the main character, Cal, struggles with his sexuality throughout the film, and that was actually it came from a personal place because growing up in high school, I was in the closet, and everything I learned about masculinity I learned from my older brother, and how to present in a certain way. And the difference between me and this character, though, is that for him it's kind of shattered and he's being bullied. People, like, the presenting for him is not working. He's really struggling to, be like sort of this image of rebellious masculinity that, the world and his brother are kind of seem to be urging him to be. But in the end, I think I wanted to show that, like, at the end of the day, your brother, or at least, his brother is the one who embraces him for who he is, despite, all of the things that he feels are flaws and, what he feels like make him less of a man,
And so this was inspired by your relationship with your brother. Is that kind of how you interacted with your real life bio brother?
Yeah, in some ways. A lot of it is heightened drama. Things in the film were definitely founded in things in real life,
We've got some people chiming in here. Viliami, also known as Lupe, just gave a little shout out. We've got Connor, who I think is in your film. Is this right? Is Connor one
Yeah,
of your
Connor's in the
actors?
film. Yeah,
Okay.
you'll find
So
him in the school scenes. Yeah.
right on, Connor. Thanks for joining in. If you want to tell us anything about what life was like on set with Indy, I want to welcome that, or things that you saw Indy do that were great as a director. I always like people to feel good about themselves. Robertino, who is one of our programmers and assistant director of the film festival here at Bravemaker, says, Daryl and Indy, your stories are so brave, human, and relatable. Great work.
Thank
I'd love you
Robert.
to talk about, making a film is not easy, even a short film. It takes a lot of work, a lot of money. I'd love you to speak to that challenge of how you went about making it, getting the finances, any obstacles that you can share, or stories about how you overcame every wall that came against you in order to get where it is today. Daryl, do you want to share about how the process went, the actual making of getting those interviews, just turning camera on, turning camera off, editing, anything you want to share?
Sure, absolutely. It was also my thesis film for my MFA. Excuse me, not thesis film, for my MFA. And we are meant to, at UC Santa Cruz, for social documentation, to do this on a pretty shoestring budget, if at all possible, and to try to manage expenses down to working on the film pretty much yourself, from filming, camera, editing, sound, etc. So it was a bit of a challenge, mostly because I didn't have any money and didn't know where to get any money. But one of the great things about where I was filming, the Tenderloin in San Francisco is not far from Redwood City, where I live, so I didn't have very far to commute. In the Tenderloin, I actually used my phone to do a lot of the filming there. It was not out of any sense of danger or anything like that, but just because my participants didn't want lots of cameras shown on them. The visibility, which is something that we're talking about for trans women, particularly Black trans women, works both ways. Visibility can be a very positive thing, right? You want to be seen, you want to be shown, but at the same time, there's a lot of transphobia, and visibility can also put you in danger. So I had to use a phone for all of those Tenderloin scenes, which actually turned out to maybe less expensive and worked quite well. I did have some equipment stolen, not in the Tenderloin, but at the Cliff House, unfortunately. So there you go. There's that. But overall, the experience was really great. My participants, thankfully, were a delight. You can really tell from the film that they would be awesome to work with. You have that shot of Ron J right now, and she's just one of the most charming women you've ever met. So I'd say overall, it was just a really pleasant experience. Thanks, Tony.
So all of this was shot on your film? I mean, your phone?
All of the scenes in the Tenderloin, yes.
In the Tenderloin, got you.
Yeah.
That just, again, I love that. That's brave as well. I mean, we know a lot of people are doing that and recognizing that, these little contraptions, they're so expensive anyways, they might as well be shooting, 4K and stuff. But you can do so much on your phone, which is a reminder, if you're watching and you want to make a film, don't let anything excuse you from doing that. The fact that you don't have the ability to, rent an Arri Alexa or a Red or whatever, you can do it right from your phone. You can do things. I was shooting something this morning on Zoom, with my laptop. So I think I really appreciate hearing that. I also love the juxtaposition of the story on housing, as well as your subjects, with the title. I mean, it's simple and perfect, Tender. I just think it was like a perfect title for the stories that you were elevating. The Tenderloin, which I've been to many times and I love, can get a bad rap. And there's a lot of things that people don't know. And it can be a scary place for some people that, have experienced hardship there. Even those within there, who live there. It's not an easy place to live because of the gentrification and, consequences that have happen to many of the people there. But I also go the reality of like, there's human beings, there are people, there are children, there are families, there are tender moments. I don't know. I love that. I appreciate that. So really well done. I think titles are important and speak a lot, you know, and before someone even buys the film to watch, that title speaks a lot. So yeah, that was cool.
I appreciate that, Tony. Let me just say a couple of things if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
One, for the filmmaking with the phone, yes, I totally agree for anyone out there. If you've got a phone, you can make a film. We tend to overblow how necessary camera is. Sound is more important than camera. Let's always remember that. I use the Filmic Pro app. That should be stated. Very good app to use. Worked great for the scenes that I needed to shoot. In regards to the title, Tinder, yeah, it took a lot of work and a lot of thought. Actually, it was weeks trying to figure that out before one day it hit me that that's what the title should be. And thanks for talking about these moments of the neighborhood and the people that live there, which is one of the things that's really important about the film. It's just to recognize that this neighborhood may get a bad rap. It may get a bad rap for crime. It may get a bad rap for drug use. It may get a bad rap for being a low-income neighborhood. But one, there's that all across San Francisco. It's not just in the Tenderloin. So we can stop trying to vilify this area for no reason. Second, this is where people live. And you're absolutely right. This is where people's homes are. This is where people get up in the morning, have breakfast, go to work, come back home. This is where they live. And we shouldn't be vilifying it. And we shouldn't be trying to find evil in this place just because of what we see there. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Again, if you're tuning in, I'm Tony Gapistone with the Brave Maker Film Festival. I'm with Daryl B. Jones of the short film documentary called Tender, documenting the lives of Black trans women in San Francisco's Tenderloin. Thank you so much, Daryl. Indy, I want to bring in a comment from, first of all, Alex Lambert says, great work, Indy.
Thank you,
so
Alex.
Alex is applauding you. And then Connor, one of your actors who has such a big comment, we can't see you anymore, Indy, but that's fine. So he says, of course, thank you so much. The experience on Indy's set was amazing. Really, Indy and his team really made an attempt to make everyone on the set, including us extras, feel welcome. While shots were being set up by his crew, he never hesitated to have conversations with us and ask us how we were doing. At the end of the day, he brought us all into a circle outside and ran around the circle, giving everyone high fives. That was how we wrapped. It was awesome. I truly hope to get to work with him again. Awesome.
Thank you, Connor.
That's really huge to get that kind of applause. Both of you directors, this is a kind of a cool conversation to have in a second, is to think about like what you learned as a director from your project. But before we get there, Indy, why don't you share about the development and the things that you had to conquer? It seems like you had a good attitude on set, which I always like to hear, people who keep the morale of their actors, their crew, their cast. You know, what things did you have to accomplish to make this thing come to the screen? I know it's not easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do want to talk about the morale thing later as well, because I think that's a super interesting conversation and important conversation to have. But I also want to talk about the money thing while we're talking about sort of budget filmmaking and where that's going and how filmmaking is becoming more accessible. And while I do believe that that is the case, money is still, I think, a point of privilege. I think because some stories require more money to tell, whether it be certain props or sets that you need, and so people who don't have that money are sort of limited in what kind of narratives they can explore and how they can express themselves. So I still think it's kind of easy to say oh, you got your phone, you can go make a film right now. It's not quite that simple. I mean, I'm really glad that it's going in that direction. Hopefully it will only continue. And so about that, for me, money, I was lucky enough to have enough money to tell this story. I started a GoFundMe. I got some help from classmates and relatives. I was like, I'm graduating this year, you know, if you could, you know, spare anything. And, you know, people are amazing. Like, you know, I have amazingly generous friends and family members. So we were able to do that. I'd say like the main challenges, one of them was scheduling. We were all, you know, we're all students. So we all had sort of schedules, and then there'd be like a pocket of like a few hours or a day where everyone was free. So scheduling was difficult. So it was like 7 days over the course of 1.5 months or so. And another difficulty was location. I think, you know, if I will never take like a grocery store scene for granted again. Like when I see one on TV, I was like, wow, that producer probably worked to the nail to get that location, because I checked about probably 15 grocery stores to film a scene, and none of them were, you know, none of them really were willing to let you in. So I think behind every location in a film is somebody, some like location manager or somebody who owns the place, who is kind enough and willing enough to contribute to the arts. So very grateful for that. I had a lot of people who really went out of their way to help this film happen. So as many challenges as there were always, you know, 2 really kind people for every challenge. So
I love that and appreciate that. I always tell my kids and anybody that will listen, sit through the credits, watch the end of a movie so you see how many people it takes to pull off this story on screen. You're so right. Getting the permits, getting the locations, setting up the food, it all takes time and money. So for both of you, in Indy, since you're just kind of in that vein, let's hear, what would you do different? It doesn't have to be you're sharing your biggest, deepest, darkest regret, but what would you do different, knowing what you know now as a director, both of you? What things do you want to experiment, try, or do on your next set based on what you learned? Indy, you want to start?
Oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. So I don't know if there's anything I would do differently, but things I want to try in the future. I think I actually had a lot of, you know, this is a scripted film, but there were a lot of moments that were unscripted that I kept in. There's a moment where like the older brother's sort of high and he's like walking in the wrong direction, and the younger brother like yanks him into the right direction. That wasn't scripted. That was like all the work of the actors. The actors were brilliant to work with. And so a lot more of like less following the script and more of just trying to create that moment that's necessary to move the story forward and get that sort of like raw, like sort of rawness.
Like allow more improv potentially?
Yeah. Like improv or and I have to commend Daryl, because I think documentary is such a like you don't know where that's gonna go, like, because, you know, it's one thing to have like a narrative film plotted out, but to go in and not know what you're going to get and then have to find the narrative in it, I think I do have like a really deep appreciation for the work you did.
Thanks, I appreciate it. No, narrative film is tougher.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's funny. The grass is always greener or more challenging to water. What about you, Daryl? What did you learn? What do you do? Will you do different, or you
sure.
know?
So I am working on a documentary right now that's about my family and an old movie theater that they worked at during Jim Crow in Clarksdale, Mississippi. And in working in that documentary, it's a lot different because I'm trying to, I've got a crew, I've got advisors, I've got DP, right? So it's a completely different experience just having all of that support. I've got an assistant director who's helping me do research, find archive materials. So after completing Tinder on my own, the thing that I said I would always do is just have more people around to help me. And that's just been great in a lot of ways has helped me further the artistic part and the gathering of participants part, and just being able to think about it more freely, what it is that I'm trying to do and what it is that I'm trying to show people and what I'm trying to share with people. So that is what I would do differently. In terms of cinematography or cinematic language, in terms of the filmmaking itself, I don't think I would do much differently. I really am into stories that are personal, where people are just talking with me, talking about their story. I'm not very much a verite style documentarian. So just hearing people's stories is what really grips me. I really like the idea that I'm having a conversation with somebody, that I'm just able to speak with them and allow them to share things that are important. I would like to go back, if it's okay, Tony, to Indy. He wanted to talk about morale, and he didn't get to finish talking about that. I'd like to hear more.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I think, well, my number one filmmaking thing personally right now is to just like be a good person and somebody that somebody wants to work with, because I feel like that camp of sort of being like James Cameron and being like some kind of dictator, and like it's like, oh, but he gets the thing done, like he does the damn thing, like he's like mean and ruthless, but it's worth it. I think that's kind of like BS a little bit. I think that like any work environment, a film set should be like safe, fun, you know. I mean, like fun sometimes, but if you can, but like obviously not every filmmaking moment is going to be fun, but just as professional, you know, and you know, as positive as possible, because I think that's really when you crack down on, you know, the positivity and keeping everything like that, I think the best work, you make the best work that you can. You know, I think it's really important to follow guidelines. You know, as a producer on the film, I was actually the only producer on this, and I sort of learned all about the guidelines for contract actors and really keeping that paperwork in line. So, you know, all of that is creating people's trust in you as a director. So, like, all of that counts, and the words you choose to say on set, like the difference between saying like, you know, even the difference of just like using please or not using please, I think like down to that, it's important to take into account as a director.
Yeah, I definitely love hearing all that. That's, you know, super inspiring, because ultimately, like, we're getting to live our dream by doing filmmaking, right? And how often I've been on a set where somebody else is taking out their frustration, not even just on, you know, one person, but everybody, because things aren't going the way things were meant, just is a real, I mean, to say downer or discouragement is an understatement. It just brings the whole morale down. And all of us, like, we got into this because we loved it, because this was like a dream, right? It's a dream job, and not many people get to do it. That's the thing. It's so hard to make a film, to make this happen. Alex says, I 100% agree. Energy is contagious in any line of work. And in most cases, it's the director who sets the tone for the whole set. And if that director has a contagious, friendly, go-getter, fun, I mean, not that you have to be someone that you're not, but if you're just a kind person and you want to be, you know, you're a human being who can go with the flow and is flexible, that tends to have a ripple effect to everybody else. So I really appreciate that. That's really great stuff. Well, we've got a few remaining minutes if anybody else wants to chime in and a comment here. If you want to check out Indy's website and his work, you just saw that a minute ago, you can go to indydang.com. I also want to make sure I draw attention to Daryl's film, the next film that he is working on newroxydoc.com. And, you know, because I don't want him to have to brag about himself, so I'll brag about him. But it is a film that is actually a fiscal sponsor of Bravemaker, which means he is raising his funds, all tax deductible, under the 501c3 nonprofit umbrella of Bravemaker. So everything is tax deductible. So if you go to his website, the newroxydoc.com, you can find out about this. Why don't you tell us about it, actually? I'll let you share about the vision for the project, Daryl.
Thanks, I appreciate it, Tony. Yeah, so if people are interested in learning more about segregation, Jim Crow in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and how Black movie theater patrons dealt with that, I think that this is the film that you would really appreciate and would like to learn more about. So it's about Black film spectatorship in the South during Jim Crow. And what I'm trying to do, show that it was the movie theater where people went to in order to have a safe space, a place where they can share an experience and escape together. And I really think that movie theaters are valuable and important. We see that in particular now with COVID-19, and we can't go to movie theaters, and it's tough, right? And it's not fun at all. The movie theater is a great place to escape and to escape together. And this is true for all types of people in all communities. But I want to focus on this community, my family, because my dad was a patron of the New Roxy Theater. My uncle was a projectionist at this theater, and my grandfather was an usher and a janitor at this theater. So I have a family connection with this place as well. Clarksdale, Mississippi is in the Mississippi Delta, the northwest portion of Mississippi. I've lived there for a very, very long time, and it's a beautiful place. It's my home, but it's also a place with a lot of poverty, a lot of Black poverty in particular. And so I'm also trying to highlight that issue, that this is a place where during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s was highly populated with Black people, Black businesses, and that's not the case any longer. So where did those people go? Where did that energy go? I'm asking that question as well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, thank you to both of you for being with us today and being Brave Makers. If you're just joining, you're just finding out about Brave Maker, please email me, tony@bravemaker.com. I would love to get you connected to our films and all of the selections that we have been doing during Shelter in Place. It's sad that our film fest, May 15 to 17, has been postponed, but we actually have now been going for 6 weeks here during quarantine. Every single week, we have been putting out great, brave stories by great, brave makers like Daryl and Indy, and talking about things like justice, diversity, and inclusion, talking about mental health awareness, talking about racial and gender equity, talking about LGBTQ plus inclusion, talking about gentrification, social pressure, all of these things, bullying. These things are important topics, and they're not always easy to talk about. They're often something we want to avoid, right? Things that we've been trained not to talk about at the dinner table or holiday gatherings. But how about we maybe use stories in compassionate and sensitive ways to help us see and empathize with people who are different with us and maybe understand people a little bit better. So thank you to both of you. Would you anyone like to have any final closing thoughts to share about anything else you want to talk about, things that are important regarding your story and your work before we end today?
I really just want to take a moment to thank Tony, to thank Brave Maker. As he said, I am a fiscal sponsee, but Tony found me when I applied for the film festival, and it's been great ever since. So I appreciate the support, and all of you out there, I hope that you support Brave Maker as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. And let me say too, if you want to be like Daryl in becoming a fiscal sponsee, we are doing a handful of projects every year. There is an application process on our website. In fact, I can pull it up right now and show you that if you're interested, go to bravemaker.com, and you can see that we have a link at the very top. It says fiscal sponsees right here. The very top, you see right over my head, actually. If you click on that, there is information about our 3 that we currently have, you'll see there's Daryl's, the new Roxy, Scarlet Thread, and Medina Papel. And then there's a link to apply, and there's a couple page application there. So I encourage you, if you have a project that you feel would be in line with our mission and vision, then check that out, because we would love to support you and help you raise funds and do mentoring. And I love working with Daryl, because anytime I see a grant that would work for him, or I have friends in the business, I'm like, oh, you gotta talk to my friend, Emmy nominated, Oscar nominated, documentarian. Like, that's why we exist, is we want to help filmmakers and elevate you and your work. So amen to that, Daryl. Thank you. Indy, anything final from you you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think you should all try to stay inside if you can, stay safe, and support a short filmmaker, or a filmmaker that because I know a lot of people during this pandemic are struggling, sort of for visibility, and especially people in the arts, I think, are struggling. Theaters are closed, film festivals are canceled, even like clubs for like drag queens performing, they're really struggling now. So I'd say try to support an independent artist while you're home. I know that if you have more time than usual, just try to take a few minutes to watch a film, enrich your sort of worldview. And yeah, there's a lot you can learn.
Right on. Well, hey, thank you to both of you, Daryl and Indy. Stay tuned for a second as I close out the broadcast, but I'm really glad that you both were with us today. Stay tuned here. I'll just give the final word. Thank you so much for watching. If this inspired you, connected with you in any way, please consider sharing it. Follow our filmmakers, their links. I'll put the Tender and Influence information here on Facebook. And if you're watching this on the replay, I'm happy to send you the links. One more time, my email is tony@bravemaker.com. And as I said, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So all of your donations are tax deductible. And the cool thing is that during May 2020, all donations will be matched by our grantor, the JML Foundation, which is for operational costs. They don't unfortunately go toward our filmmakers, but anything that we do for our operations to keep us afloat, they will be doubled up to $25,000. So you can go to bravemaker.com/donate, and you can do that today. The cool thing is you can also do it right from your phone. If you go to your phone, you can just dial or text 44321. Say it again with me, 44321. Text the word Bravemaker to 44321, and you can donate on your phone. Hey, thanks so much. We always say brave stories change the world, and you are the story. We'll see you next time.